Welcome to NYNJPA Weather, your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Before I get to the surface map, I wanted to show the water vapor satellite picture as of about 8:30 a.m. And what I'm showing here is basically dry air building into the Northern Mid-Atlantic. Notice these curved red areas. As I was discussing yesterday, the reason why the low pressure system that was moving through the mid-Atlantic this morning was not going to be all that impressive was because of the dry air building in because of convergence and confluence. Well, now we could see it live right now this morning as the air is converging in the upper levels from the upper level low that is around northern Maine and the ridge that's over the southeast. And you can see clearly sinking air building into the northern mid-Atlantic. That's why the snow ended so quickly over much of the Philadelphia metropolitan area, although they still received anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snow. Philadelphia itself came in at about 4.5 to 5 inches based on the latest observation. So clearly a good moderate to heavy snowfall did occur in a very short period of time, but now that low pressure has gone out into the Atlantic and high pressure is building in. High pressure is going to remain controlled throughout much of this week, at least through Thursday night. In fact, right now, high pressure is driving that cold Arctic air and dry air into the northern mid-Atlantic, with only a few isolated scattered showers remaining, scattered snow showers, should I say, remaining this morning over parts of the Philadelphia metropolitan area. Otherwise, clearing skies can be expected, with temperatures struggling in the lower 30s because basically this cold Arctic area is dropping down from Quebec and moving right into the northern mid-Atlantic. The good news is that today is the coldest day of at least the next 10, and probably even further out. As this high pressure system starts to move to the east and eventually will settle off the east coast by Wednesday night, much warmer conditions can be expected. Tomorrow, temperatures get into the upper 30s to lower 40s, and then after that, by Thursday and Friday, temperatures will be driving into the 40s, 50s, and possibly even lower 60s for parts of southern New Jersey on Friday afternoon. Now there's a big storm coming up for Friday afternoon. Is it going to produce rain? Well, let's take a look at some interesting statistics. What we're looking at here are the index forecasts for the North Atlantic Oscillation and the Arctic Oscillation. Notice throughout much of this winter, the Arctic and the North Atlantic oscillations remain generally negative in January. And then they start to trend more towards positive as we move into February. And now as we move towards March, they're going to become strongly positive. That is a huge indication for what we can expect going forward over the next several weeks. When these two indices are positive, that means the cold air is trapped up in Canada and the pattern is relatively progressive, and the storm track is usually to the west of the northern mid-Atlantic rather than the east. So these indications that we're looking at right now are very, very important in determining, one, where the storms are more likely to go, and two, which models really have a better grasp on what's actually happening in the atmosphere. These are observations, and we can kind of get the idea of where the trends are going in the atmosphere with the ensemble guidance. So when we look at that, we know which models are more likely to trust and which ones are not. So if you see a model guidance that has a low pressure system tracking along the coast with a potential for snow, more than likely that's not going to happen because of what we're looking at right now in the atmosphere. This is the 500 millibar pattern from the European model guidance from Penn State EWOL. And as you can see, there is a rather strong disturbance in the southern plains and approaching the Mississippi River Valley. Now, notice in the Atlantic that there is a very weak trough, but there really isn't a strong upper level low that would signal a negative NAO pattern. What this means is that the pattern is very progressive. We also have a deep trough out in the west coast, and we have a strong disturbance over Canada. Now, in this type of pattern, the strong disturbance that's over the Mississippi River Valley will move northeast towards the Ohio Valley and eventually towards about central New York. Now, the European model guidance I think is a little bit too far west, tracking the surface low towards the Great Lakes. However, the GFS is way too far east, so I'm going with a compromise here as we can look at the surface map. And as you can see, on Thursday evening, our area low pressure at the surface is basically around the central Mississippi River Valley. I expect the storm track to cut up through the Ohio Valley and towards central New York and the central Hudson River Valley. Now, there are a lot of key indications here for what to expect as far as precipitation. For one, a high pressure system off the east coast with a southerly flow ahead of this low pressure system is not in any way, shape, or form conducive for snowfall with this type of storm track. So what I'm expecting on Friday is that the northern Mid-Atlantic is going to get very warm, especially for the Philadelphia metro and parts of southern New Jersey. I would not be surprised if temperatures are pushing into the lower 60s in this type of pattern. And this low pressure system is going to draw up plenty of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and produce a rather impressive heavy rain event for the northern Atlantic on Friday afternoon through Friday night. As the low pressure system pulls north, some polar air is going to work through, and yet there could be a little bit of a mix over to snow for parts of northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and the Hudson Valley as this low pressure system exits. However, when you have cold air coming in, relatively, with dry air, the potential for any type of significant snowfall accumulation is limited because the precipitation shield is shutting down. So I really don't expect this to be much of a snow event, but in fact more like a rain event with the potential for some flash flooding, especially in the interior where there's still plenty of snowpack in place. So it's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on for Friday. Once this low pressure system leaves, there will be a few disturbances moving through the region on Saturday and Sunday. Most of the impact from these disturbances will be on Sunday with a few scattered rain and snow showers. The air mass is pretty marginal for any type of accumulation, I think. So for the most part, I'm only expecting rain and snow showers with little of any accumulation whatsoever. And then next week, we have another major storm on the way. And here we are on Monday night. Now, remember what I said about the positive Arctic oscillation, positive NAO oscillation. Now, there are polar vortexes stuck up in northern Canada, and that means the cold polar air that is setting up over Alaska and northwestern Canada can only drop so far south, and then a zonal flow shunts that cold air towards eastern Canada and cannot drop down into the northern Mid-Atlantic. Sure, we have a powerful storm starting to develop over the Mississippi River Valley, but that storm is not going to be able to tap into that Arctic air. So again, it looks like Monday night into Tuesday, mostly a rain event can be expected, as our surface low that develops over the Mississippi River Valley will likely curve up towards the northern Mid-Atlantic. The storm track will likely be right over eastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey. But again, notice the high pressure system. It's to the east. This is not conducive for any type of frozen precipitation event. You could start off with a little bit of a wintry mix at the very start over the northern interior, but even those locations will change over to rain because there really isn't much in the way of cold air to tap into this low pressure system because it's all locked up in Canada. As we fast forward into looking at next week's pattern, you can see that the polar vortex is stuck up in northeastern Canada, which means that we are going to have a positive Arctic oscillation and positive North Atlantic oscillation. And that means our cold Arctic air can only drop down towards the west coast, and then it moves due east along the Canadian border, clearly north of the northern Atlantic. Meanwhile, our Pacific air mass is able to drive into the west coast and continue on throughout the entire United States, with what likely will be a significant moderation in temperatures heading in towards the end of next week. Thank you for trusting in NYNJPA Weather as your weather source for the northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Have a great day.